welcome back to my channel. This is probably going to be quite a long video, so I'm going to try to get through it as quickly as possible. If you haven't noticed, we have Hugo here. He decided to join, and I'm sure we'll be joined by others later. But this is Hugo, for those of you who don't know. This video series is inspired by the channel Fit and Beloved. This is a brand new channel that I started watching on YouTube, and I really love it. And she, I believe, has a series on her channel, just like a Christian series where she sits down and talks about God. And I had considered doing something like that for my channel, but I didn't really know what to talk about. And I thought I would talk about things as they came up. But then when they do come up and I feel like I've learned something, then I move on from it before I have time to sit down and share it. And then it's no longer new to me anymore. So, I was watching some of her videos recently, and I haven't watched them all, but I'm going to. And she has a little series on her channel where she does, I think it's like what she learned each week. And I was watching one of those videos last week or a few days ago, and it really inspired me to start doing my Christian video series on my channel. So this is something that I've considered doing, but I was really inspired to do it when I saw her videos, and so I'm so very excited to sit down and share this with you. These videos are going to go up every Friday. I post beauty videos every Monday and Thursday, and I didn't want these videos to interfere with my regular schedule, so I'm just going to have these videos go up every Friday, which means I will be uploading 3 times a week. And that way, if there are any viewers who are not interested in this video series, you don't have to watch them, and you'll already know which days they're going to be uploaded, so you don't have to worry about coming back here on Friday or checking for videos on Friday or anything like that. You'll know that your videos are up on Mondays and Thursdays. So this is going to be a video series on a Bible study class that I have been going to every Wednesday morning. I started going to this Bible class last August, and I believe their year runs from like August to April or May. So I'm still involved in it, and I'm going to continue it until it ends for the summer, and then we'll see what things look like next year, but I'm most likely going to go next year if I can fit it into my schedule, which I have been able to this year. This Bible study plan is called Explorer's Bible Study. I'm not sure how many of those of you are out there who are familiar with this. Hey! Told you we'd be joined by more. So, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with this, but this is called Explorer's Bible Study. And I can't tell you much about the Bible study itself because I'm brand new to it. But an interesting little fact is my mom went with her best friend when she had just started going to church several years ago. I mean, when I was really little, so probably 20 years ago. And she passed away this last June. And when August came around, her friend, who is a dear friend of our family, she had invited me to come with her on Wednesday mornings to Bible study, and I thought, okay, I can do that. So I went once, and I really enjoyed it. And what you do is you join, and you get your book, and you study each week, and you learn about God. But that's basically what it is for me. I don't know much about the program, like the study, much about the history of it or anything like that. But I can link the website in the description below just so you can go there and check it out just to get any information on it. This is a scripture-based Bible class, so it's not influenced by denomination or influenced by a certain pastor or any particular belief system. It is all biblically based, which is always the most important thing when you're looking for a new Bible study program or a new church or anything like that. You want it to be based off the Bible, of course, because if the Bible is what you believe in, then that's what you want to learn from. Okay, so the way this video series is going to be set up is I am going to film on Wednesday afternoons after I've gotten home from Bible study class. While the information and everything is still fresh on my mind. Get down. And I'm going to upload every Friday. So I'm going to upload those videos every Friday for you guys. And this is going to be just a summary of the lesson that we did and what we went over in class, and just basically anything that I've learned that week from the Bible lesson, which there's something that I learn every single week. And if there's not anything that's life-changing that I've learned, then there's just something really small that I didn't know before that I've learned. There's also a notes section in this book which is about 2 to 3 pages long, and I am very interested in reading that portion to you. Dexter! Just because the notes are so thorough, and you could probably skip the study and still learn the bulk of the lesson through the notes alone. That's how good they are. And they put everything into words so much better than I can unless I've thoroughly learned something. But some of the things that I haven't learned and sort of skimmed over, it really puts those into words really well. So I want to be able to read that portion to you, and I know that some people don't like to be read to, some people like to read on their own, so I'm not really sure how to insert that part. If I do choose to read the notes, which I think I might, I'm just going to insert that at the very end of each video so that you can stay if you'd like to hear it, and if not, then you can just exit out. The only other way for me to get it to you would be to type it up, and I'd rather sit here and read it than to type it up and post it. So I think that's probably what we're leaning towards. If you have any better ideas, you can let me know and I'll consider them. The way this book is set up is we do one lesson each week. There is a question portion and a notes portion. And when we go back to class on Wednesday mornings, we go over our answers for the question portion, and then we have a lecture. And I learn from doing the Bible study, from reading the notes, from going to class, and from hearing the lecture. So I learn from all of it, and it's very enlightening and very wonderful, and I was just so inspired to start this video series after watching the Fit and Beloved little series that she has going on, and it really inspired me to film this. So I'm thankful for that, and thankful that I've had the right push to actually sit down and do this. And we are sitting here on the couch with a nice little bookshelf in the background and everything, so it's like a nice relaxed sit down chit chat hangout video. So I've got a glass of tea in here with me, and I would have brought snacks to eat while I was filming, but I'm not hungry, so we're just gonna get started. This is already a long video and it hasn't even begun. This is the book. This is the second book. There is one for the first few months and a second book for the last few months. And we have just begun our second book since we've started a new year or a new semester or whatever you want to call it. I'm not going to go through every single lesson with you out of the first book because there are like 15 of them, and that's a lot to go through in one video. There's a lot to go through with just this video, and I only have 3 or 4 lessons. I can't remember how many. But each week I want to just sit down and talk about what we went over and what we talked about and stuff. So I'm going to catch you up this week, and then next week we'll be on schedule. So the gist of the first book was prophecy throughout the Bible. It was prophesied that Jesus was going to come to earth and be sacrificed, and that was one of the major prophecies, but there were also many other prophecies along with that, and I'm not going to go through all of those because I'd have to go through that entire book. But that was the gist of the first book and what we learned last year, which was between August and December. That is to build a little bit of a foundation to prepare us for this semester, which is the study of Revelation. And who doesn't want to talk about Revelation, really? Like, who is out there that is not intrigued by Revelation or does not care what Revelation has to say? I think everywhere, everyone has wondered, at least at one point, what in the world Revelations is talking about, or what it means, or all that stuff. So hopefully we can clear all of that up in the next few months. But we have started studying Revelation. We are in chapter 6, I think. And the last semester we talked about just general prophecy throughout the Bible. So when one thing was prophesied in the Old Testament, it showed where it came true, whether it be in the New Testament or where it came true in the Old Testament. Of course, Jesus was prophesied about in the Old Testament, and then in the New Testament you saw all of that laid out. So that is the gist of last semester, and I know I'm being very repetitive. I want to make sure that I'm saying everything. So that was just the gist of last semester. And this semester we've began Revelation. So that's what we're going to get started on. I'm going to quickly cover lesson 15 from the last book because that was the very beginning of Revelation for us. And I'm only going to mention a couple of things out of here. Oh, this is good stuff. Okay, from lesson 15 we studied the Revelation chapter 1. Let's see. What happened in chapter 1 was John the disciple was the last living of the 12 disciples at the time, and he was told by God, I'm not going to get all the words right, so everything's going to be very paraphrased, but he was told by God to record what he was getting ready to see. And he was also given instructions to write a letter to each of the 7 churches. I can mention those 7 churches to you. Something that we've recently learned in one of our lessons but didn't learn in the lesson that I'm sharing with you now, which is lesson 15, was that each of the 7 churches can represent either a church era or the complete and final 7 types of churches that you will ever find anywhere. Some people believe that it represents the church era, and some people believe that it only represents just all of the 7 churches, all the 7 possible types of churches. And the reason we believe that it's the only 7 possible types of churches is because 7 is known to be a perfect number, and it's known to represent completion. So when God uses the number 7, it means that's it. There's only 7. So that's really cool. So in Revelation, where is it? I'm going to get to it. I don't know if it's in Revelation chapter 1 or chapters 2 and 3. But he goes into detail with all of the churches. And I'm getting ahead of myself on these lessons. But he goes into detail with all of these churches. And he is writing a letter telling them what God is telling him to tell them. So God gives each church, well, not each church, he gives most of the churches a criticism and a praise and a warning. He's telling them what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and what they need to do to resurrect what they've done wrong. That was the gist of those chapters 2 and 3. I believe it was chapters 2 and 3. I will link all of the Bible verses at the bottom so that you can check out for yourself. But as far as lesson 15 is concerned, there are 2 things that I want to share with you out of it, and I'm looking for that now. So as soon as I get to it, I will let you know. Okay, we're finally here. I had to look up the verse because I was skimming over the lesson and I couldn't find it, but I do believe we studied that verse out of that lesson. This is Revelation chapter 1 verse 3. It says, "Blessed is the one who reads aloud the words of this prophecy, and blessed are those who hear it and take to heart what is written in it, because the time is near." So the most interesting thing to me out of that lesson was that if you take the time to sit down and study and read Revelation, and not only do that, but you are willing to share it with others, or you actually do go out and share it with others, you will be blessed. Not only in understanding it, because obviously that's a blessing, but probably blessed even further beyond that. So that is something that's perfect for this first video, because it'll be good for you to sit down and watch these videos, as well as for me to do these studies, and you'll be blessed because of it. So remember that. That's really neat. The second thing that I was going to point out was the verse 19, Revelation chapter 1 verse 19. I'm actually going to look that up so that I read it correctly. Okay, while I'm here, I just wanted to mention the names of the 7 churches that he sends a letter out to, and that is Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. I'm not sure how to pronounce some of those. I thought I could say all of them. Otherwise, I wouldn't have attempted to read them. So Revelation chapter 1 verse 19 says, this is God's words to John. "Write therefore what you have seen, what is now, and what will take place later." So in our lesson, we were shown that that single verse outlines the entire book of Revelation. The book of Revelation discusses what has happened, what is happening, and what will happen. So that was the gist of what we studied in lesson 15, and that's very interesting to most people because there are parts of Revelation that talks about things that have happened in the past, things that are happening right now, versus such as, like, you know, people say the world is ending right now, so it's talking about things that are happening right now in the present, and then it's talking about things that are happening or that are going to happen in the future when Jesus does come back. So cool. So that was lesson 15. So I'm very interested in reading these notes to you out of these 3 or 4 lessons that I'm going to discuss with you today. I'm probably not going to insert it into this video just because some people may not even care, but if you're interested in hearing the notes from these 4 lessons, please comment and let me know, and I would be more than glad to sit down and just film the readings for you. And other than that, I will read the notes for the future lessons that we study. I just don't know if you're interested in these that I've done already. So we've also covered lessons 16, 17, and 18, so I guess that is 4 lessons. So now I'm going to try to quickly summarize lesson 16, which is, it's not going to happen because I cannot quickly summarize anything. But I did go over it with you already. So I talked to you about basically all that we studied in this lesson were what was being said to the 7 churches that God had John write a letter to. And like I said before, you can read this starting in Revelation. If I'm wrong, then the correct verses will be listed below. But you can start reading this in Revelation 1:20, and it goes all the way through chapter 3, through the end of chapter 3. So basically chapters 2 and 3, starting with verse 20 in chapter 1, which may or may not be the last verse in that chapter, I'm not sure. But basically, with every church that's mentioned, which I read off to you, he lists a compliment, a criticism, and a warning. So he's telling them something that they've done well, something they've done bad, and what they can do to rectify what they've done wrong, what he wants them to do to change. Now, your homework is to read the chapters, look at the churches, and look at what he's saying to them, and consider modern day churches or modern day people, since you can say that our bodies are a temple of God, kind of like we are his church individually and together. We are his church. We represent his church. So look at it in relation to things that you see in people today or in churches today, and that will help it make better sense to you. But each one of these churches, not each one of them, I think there were a couple of churches that were doing really well, but some of them were doing wrong, so he points out what they've done wrong, and he points out, you know, what he wants them to do to change, to be better. And in the notes, it talks about the theory that some believe that each one of those churches represents a different church era, and that seems evident to me because in the notes it also talks about how it relates to each different church era. So you can look at it like that. Or you can look at it as just the 7 possible behaviors that a church could possibly have. I said possible twice. I hope that I've elaborated on that enough. Unless I'm going to sit here and pour through everything, you're going to have to look it up on your own and do a little bit of research on your own. I'll be more than glad to sit here and pour everything out for you and spell it all out, but I'm afraid that people would pull their eyes out if they had to sit through such a long video. So, any questions you might have, any questions at all, please list them in the comments below, and I'll be more than happy to explain them to you, whether it be in the comment section or with a new video, or we can talk personally, however you want to do, okay? And I don't know everything. This is just a video series based on things that I'm learning as I learn them. It doesn't mean I have all the answers, and it doesn't mean that I'm saying everything correctly. So you need to do your research, and you need to do your own praying, have your own convictions, have your own beliefs, things like that. So don't forget that. Okay, so that basically sums up lesson 16. So moving on to lesson 17. Okay, so lesson 17 covers chapters 4 and 5. And I would be able to explain more of this in depth to you had I filmed this last week. Actually, I did do this lesson this week, but had I filmed while this was still fresh, I did do this particular lesson, I believe, on a Sunday. And then I did my very last lesson, lesson 18, the day before yesterday. Yeah. So this is not as fresh, but this covers chapters 4 and 5. Basically, in this chapter, in chapter 4, John sees another vision separate from the churches. He's done writing to the churches. He has already been told all of that, and he sees a vision from God. And I can't remember the vision specifically because it did not have an impact on me, but when you read that, you can see what you think of it yourself. In chapter 5, what stands out to me the most in this lesson is in chapter 5 when there is, in this vision, there is a scroll and it has 7 seals on it. And one of the elders, I believe, I could be wrong, asks who is worthy to open this scroll. And no one can open it because, of course, everyone is a sinner. So the only one who's worthy to open it is Jesus. So Jesus steps forward to open the scroll, and that was the most important thing that I learned out of lesson 17. And that covered chapters 4 and 5. Now, moving on to lesson 18, which has been my favorite lesson since January this year so far. It's been my favorite lesson. Okay, so this covers chapter 6. Just chapter 6, right? And you're going to have to read this for yourself because this is good stuff. So this covers the opening of the scroll. Jesus is in heaven with his little scroll that he's worthy to open, and he starts tearing the seals. And he tears one seal, and this whole scene happens. He tears another seal, and another whole scene happens. And so forth, until he gets all 6 of the seals broken. Okay, chapter 6 only covers the first 6 seals, so I don't know what the 7th one is exactly. But that will be covered in the next lesson, which I'll see you back here next Friday for. So it's really cool because, and you're going to have to read it. You don't have to read every single week. You're just going to have to read it for this week so that I can keep this video as short as I can. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick overview of what each seal is supposed to represent. The first seal is false teachings, okay? And we've heard in the Bible before that one of the signs of the end times will be false teachings. So that is the first seal. The second seal is war, and we can also probably recall that one of the end signs is wars and rumors of wars. And so that would be the second seal. The third seal is famine, which I think is logically caused from wars and things like that, but I don't know if it specifically means that that is how it's going to be caused in this particular case. But we can see how it would be caused from wars because, you know, it's a hard time when there's a war, a big war. Revelation talks about how food will be very scarce and expensive, and there will be famine due to that. There will be wild animals. Well, it just talks about beasts. There will be beasts that will eat on the bodies of the dead people, beasts that will kill people, probably due to disease and other things like that. I'm probably missing something because I think there were 3 things, but those are the 2 things that I'm seeing right now. So that covers the third seal. The fourth seal is death. So during this opening of the fourth seal, we will lose 25% of the Earth's population. The Bible, in those few verses, the Bible said, which is verses 7 and 8, the Bible says that that God will, or God or Jesus will let death have a quarter of the world. So that would be 25% of the population. The fourth seal may be the one that talks about the beasts of the earth and disease and things like that. But yeah, and there's also going to be a time of, yeah, that's the fifth seal. So the fifth seal, there's going to be a time of persecution for Christians. I believe Christians are going to be murdered for being Christians, and that's pretty scary. And then the sixth seal is the one that obviously hasn't happened yet. This is where the heavens roll back and the stars fall from the sky and the sun goes black and everything crazy happens. Something that I read across in these verses that I have never heard of, have never remembered seeing before, was that the mountains and the islands, it said islands, will disappear from the earth. That's pretty crazy right there. So obviously this opening of the sixth seal has not happened yet, because when that happens, we're gonna know. And then I don't know how long after that, but I'm assuming pretty close after the sixth seal is opened will be the time when Jesus actually physically comes back to earth from heaven. So my question to you is, out of these 5 seals, because we won't count number 6 since we know that hasn't happened yet, out of these 5 seals, how many of these particular things do you see take place right now in the world? We've always heard that the world is coming to an end. I think our young generation has heard that since the day we were born. And I grew up half not believing it, because that's just the world that I lived in. I didn't consider it to be the end of the world, because that's all I've ever known. So I can look at it now and I can really see it according to the Bible. But how many of those situations are happening right now? There's scripture in Revelation. I can probably tell you the verse. No, it says Matthew 24 verse 8 says, okay, all of these things are the beginning of birth pangs. So what we know about birth pain is that it grows with intensity and frequency. So as you can imagine, all of these bad things that are mentioned with the opening of these seals are going to grow with intensity and frequency before it's over with. So it's kind of hard to say where exactly we are on the spectrum, whether we're at the very beginning or whether we're at the very, very end. But I think it's safe to say that, I don't know, you can kind of start to see these seals being opened. That's crazy, okay? That's crazy. So if God is up there, if Jesus is up there right now popping seals off the scroll, you better get right. Okay, for real. That's not the point. That's not the point of this. No. Okay, so I think that's really fascinating. It's not so scary once I've really started to learn what it is and what to expect and what everything means, but it is scary. I mean, it's scary. I don't imagine it as a scary thing right now, but if it started happening in real life right this minute, it would be pretty scary. Okay, one other thing that I wanted to mention in lesson 18 was that it compared Revelation chapter 6 to Matthew chapter 24. And one of the things that it points out in the notes is that anything that is in the Bible at least twice, when something is mentioned in the Bible at least twice, it's something that's really important. And the reason we know that is because in lesson 15, we studied, well, in the notes, we didn't really study it, but in the notes it mentioned the importance of the numbers throughout the Bible. And one of those numbers was the number 2, and that number meant 2, according to Deuteronomy 19, so you can reference this with a Bible verse. This was the minimum number needed to establish the truth. And then in quotations and italics it says, "One witness shall not rise against a man concerning any iniquity or any sin that he commits. By the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses the matter shall be established." And then it says 2 then is the number of a witness. So that is what that number means according to the Bible. And So you can assume that anytime that something is mentioned in the Bible twice, it's very important, or it's very true. Not that anything else in the Bible is not true, but you know, when something's mentioned more than once, it's very true. And what I think is the most interesting is that a lot of the times you can cross-reference the Bible with itself. You can read about one particular thing in one book, and then that exact same thing can be reworded or even worded very similarly in another book of the Bible. So you can even cross-reference it against itself, which is really neat. That's one of the first things I learned in college when it came to researching papers, is you don't just want to take one piece of information and go with it. You want to cross-reference it with another piece of information, and another piece, and another piece, and another piece, to make sure that you really have true information. Now, with the Bible, that's a little bit different, because you can assume that everything in the Bible is true, but it is really nice and just refreshing and a bit of a relief, I guess, to be able to cross-reference the Bible with itself. Because and another thing is, you can know that you're reading it right. You know, you can go through a verse and read it a certain way and think that it means something, and then you can read it the exact same way in another book and it can mean the exact same thing, and then you can feel a little bit more confirmation knowing that you are interpreting it correctly, is what I'm trying to say. So, that being said, it mentions to read Matthew chapter 24, which is also going to be part of your homework. So, and compare it to Revelation chapter 6. So, I did read Matthew chapter 24 during this lesson, and it does state everything almost word for word as it does in Revelation chapter 6. So, that's really cool. I think chapter 24 in Matthew is labeled something like the end of the world, or what is to come at the end of the world, or something like that, and Jesus sits down and explains everything to the disciples, I believe, who ask him what's going to happen. And then all of those things that he mentions are also mentioned in Revelation chapter 6, which was with the opening of all of the 6 scrolls. So it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's crazy to think that Jesus could be up there right now popping those scrolls open. Popping open the seals off the scroll. Popping them open. And any minute, I mean, we may have a long way to go, or we could be ready, or he could be ready to do this tomorrow. It's so crazy. So I have, let's see, our lady that does our lecture said that the opening of the 7th seal on the scroll will be the coming back of Jesus. So I'm really interested to get started in that lesson, which is lesson 19. And I will be back next Wednesday. Hopefully, if I'm not able to film on Wednesdays, I'll be back. I'll be here to film on Thursdays, which is what today is. So I'll be back next week with the summary of lesson 19. It will be a lot more in depth than this was, because this is to catch you up. And after this, I want to actually kind of delve into everything. If for any reason something in our newer lessons are referenced, if it references the old lessons, then I will go back over that old lesson with you so that you can understand why it's referencing that lesson. The last thing I want to mention is we have an Explorers Bible Study class every Wednesday morning at Poplar Heights Baptist Church in Jackson. So for any of those of you that are local and your interest is sparked by this Bible study lesson and you're interested in going to classes, then you are more than welcome to join all of us. We meet at 9:20 Wednesday morning at Poplar Heights Baptist Church in Jackson, Tennessee. For those of you who are not local and are interested in participating in one of these studies, then the Explorers Bible Study website will be linked below. You will just have to ask around within your community and find out where they might do an Explorers Bible Study, because I've never had to look for one, so I'm not really sure the protocol. But the website will be linked below, and if you need any assistance from anyone other than me, then I'm sure there will be plenty of people that you can reach out to through that website who are willing to help you. And I'm sure they can help you get into an Explorers Bible Study program, or I think there's always been an option on that website to start your own Explorers Bible Study group. So this Bible study group that I go to is an all-women's group. I don't know if it's generally an all women's group or if it is just however you want to set it up. But this one was probably just set up to be an all women's group. But please join us if you're interested. If not, then I will be back to continue to talk to you more about it. And next week I will read the notes from our lesson. If you would like me to leave the readings for you, I will be more than glad to film a video, just me reading from these 4 lessons that I covered today. You're going to get a lot more meat out of those notes than you are me summarizing anything for you. Especially, I can tell you that especially since I just barely tapped into anything today. Hopefully with the lessons to come, you'll get more out of it because I'll be able to go more into depth. I know this video is already long, but hopefully it kept your interest. So anyways, I really like this type of video and I'm excited to start this little series and I hope that you enjoy it. Please leave comments below letting me know that you are enjoying it or whatever your thoughts may be. And thank you so much for joining me and for watching, and I cannot wait to see you guys next Friday. Bye!